The text that should have stayed unread. My name's Jordan Carter. I'm 34 years old. And for the last 10 years, I've worked my tail off building a life nobody handed to me. No rich parents. No trust fund. No lucky break. Just long hours, missed weekends, and a whole lot of hustle. Life was finally good. Not perfect, but good. I had my own place. A solid job. Money in the bank. And most importantly, peace. Then one Tuesday afternoon, my phone buzzed. I glanced down and almost dropped it. The text was from my Uncle Rick. Now that probably doesn't sound like a big deal, except I hadn't heard from the guy in 4 years. 4 whole years. No birthday texts. No holiday calls. Nothing. The entire family had basically erased me. So seeing his name pop up felt weird. Real weird. I opened the message. Family dinner this Saturday. Time to make peace, kid. I stared at the screen. Then laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was wild. For 4 years, these folks acted like I didn't exist. And now suddenly they wanted peace? Yeah, sure. A second text arrived. Just close family. We'd love to see you. That right there was my first red flag. Because whenever somebody from my family said they'd love to see me, they usually wanted something. Money. A favor. A signature. Something. Never failed. I tossed my phone onto my desk and tried getting back to work. Didn't happen. That text stayed stuck in my head all day. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Actually, most of me wanted to ignore it. But another part kept asking the same question. Why now? Why after 4 years? What changed? That night I called my best friend Marcus. The second he heard Uncle Rick's name, he started laughing. Dog, ain't no way. What? You seriously thinking about going? I don't know. Jordan, come on, man. He paused, then said exactly what I was already thinking. Sounds like a setup. I leaned back on the couch. Maybe. Nah, not maybe, definitely. The messed up thing. He was probably right. But family has a funny way of getting into your head, even when they've treated you like garbage. A small piece of you still hopes things can get better. That maybe somebody's finally ready to apologize. Maybe they miss you. Maybe they've changed. So against my better judgment, I texted back. What time? Uncle Rick replied almost immediately. Like he'd been waiting. 6 p.m. See you Saturday. That's all he said. No details. No apology. No explanation. Just show up. The whole thing felt off. But I ignored that feeling. Big mistake. Because I had no clue that by Saturday night, I'd be sitting in front of a $7,218 dinner bill, and every single person at that table would expect me to pay it. The reason they cut me off. Saturday was still a few days away, but that text dragged me straight back to the moment everything fell apart. 4 years earlier, back when my cousin Tyler had his $1 million idea. Now don't get me wrong, I got nothing against people chasing dreams. But Tyler changed dreams more often than he changed tires. 1 month it was crypto. Next month it was real estate. Then it was sports betting. Then NFTs. Then some energy drink business. Every idea was supposedly going to make him rich. None of them lasted longer than a Netflix free trial. Then came the food truck plan. And somehow, everybody bought into it. Tyler wanted to launch 3 food trucks. Not 1. 3. Right out of the gate. Problem was, he didn't have the money. Not even close. The bank agreed to approve a $120,000 loan. But there was one catch. He needed a cosigner. Guess who they wanted? Yep, me. One Sunday afternoon, I got invited over to Grandma June's house. The second I walked inside, I knew something was up. Everybody was there. Uncle Rick, Aunt Denise, Tyler, Grandma, even cousins who never showed up for family events. The whole crew. Tyler had a laptop sitting on the coffee table. A projector was running. Bro looked like he was pitching Shark Tank. For 40 minutes, he talked. Revenue projections, growth plans, expansion opportunities, future franchises. Y'all would have thought he was building the next Chick-fil-A. Nobody asked hard questions. Nobody challenged anything. Everybody just nodded, smiled, clapped. Then Tyler finally got to the point. He slid a folder across the table. Right toward me. Need your signature. Just like that, like it was already decided. I opened the folder. The loan amount hit me first. $20,000. Then I started reading. Page after page. The room got real quiet. People hate when you actually read paperwork. After about 5 minutes, Tyler sighed. You almost done? I looked up. Where's the business plan? The room froze. Tyler blinked. What do you mean? I mean the actual business plan. His smile disappeared. The more questions I asked, the worse it got. No supplier contracts. No backup funding. No emergency budget. No real financial projections. Nothing, just hope. And hope ain't a business strategy. I closed the folder, set it down, then said one word. No. Silence. Complete silence. You could have heard a fork hit the floor. Tyler stared at me. Aunt Denise looked shocked. Grandma frowned. Then Uncle Rick stood up. Slowly, the reason they cut me off. Saturday was still a few days away, but that text dragged me straight back to the moment everything fell apart. 4 years earlier, back when my cousin Tyler had his $1 million idea. Now don't get me wrong, I got nothing against people chasing dreams. But Tyler changed dreams more often than he changed tires. 1 month it was crypto. Next month it was real estate. Then it was sports betting. Then NFTs. Then some energy drink business. Every idea was supposedly going to make him rich. None of them lasted longer than a Netflix free trial. Then came the food truck plan. And somehow, everybody bought into it. Tyler wanted to launch 3 food trucks. Not 1. 3. Right out of the gate. Problem was, he didn't have the money. Not even close. The bank agreed to approve a $120,000 loan. But there was one catch. He needed a cosigner. Guess who they wanted? Yep, me. One Sunday afternoon, I got invited over to Grandma June's house. The second I walked inside, I knew something was up. Everybody was there. Uncle Rick, Aunt Denise, Tyler, Grandma, even cousins who never showed up for family events. The whole crew. Tyler had a laptop sitting on the coffee table. A projector was running. Bro looked like he was pitching Shark Tank. For 40 minutes, he talked. Revenue projections, growth plans, expansion opportunities, future franchises. Y'all would have thought he was building the next Chick-fil-A. Nobody asked hard questions. Nobody challenged anything. Everybody just nodded, smiled, clapped. Then Tyler finally got to the point. He slid a folder across the table. Right toward me. Need your signature. Just like that, like it was already decided. I opened the folder. The loan amount hit me first. $20,000. Then I started reading. Page after page. The room got real quiet. People hate when you actually read paperwork. After about 5 minutes, Tyler sighed. You almost done? I looked up. Where's the business plan? The room froze. Tyler blinked. What do you mean? I mean the actual business plan. His smile disappeared. The more questions I asked, the worse it got. No supplier contracts. No backup funding. No emergency budget. No real financial projections. Nothing, just hope. And hope ain't a business strategy. I closed the folder, set it down, then said one word. No. Silence. Complete silence. You could have heard a fork hit the floor. Tyler stared at me. Aunt Denise looked shocked. Grandma frowned. Then Uncle Rick stood up. Slowly, and I knew exactly what was coming. Family helps family. There it was. The Carter family motto, the line they always pulled out whenever they wanted something. I looked him straight in the eye. Family also tells the truth. Nobody liked that answer. Tyler jumped up. So that's it? I shrugged. I'm not risking my future on a business that ain't ready. His face turned red. You think you're better than everybody now? No. Then sign the papers. No. The second no hit harder than the first one, because now they realized I wasn't changing my mind. Tyler started yelling. Aunt Denise started crying. Grandma started lecturing. And Uncle Rick? Well, he completely lost it. He pointed at me and said something I'd never forget. If you won't help this family, then maybe you ain't part of it. The room went dead quiet. Nobody defended me. Nobody spoke up. Nobody said Uncle Rick was out of line. Not one person. And that's when I realized something. The loan wasn't the real test. Obedience was. They didn't care about the money. They cared that I finally said no. I grabbed my keys, walked to the door, and right before I left, I turned around. Half the room wouldn't even look at me. The other half looked angry. Like somehow I was the bad guy. Like I was the one asking them for $120,000. Wild. Absolutely wild. I walked out. Got in my truck and drove home. The next morning, I checked the family group chat. Gone. Removed. No explanation. No goodbye. Just gone. 4 years. That's how long it stayed that way. 4 years of silence until Uncle Rick's text showed up out of nowhere. And sitting on my couch that Tuesday night, I couldn't shake one thought. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe this wasn't a peace dinner. Maybe it was something else. And if I was being real with myself, I already knew exactly what it was. They needed something. Again. Saturday came way faster than I wanted. All day I kept going back and forth. Should I go? Should I stay home? Every time I decided not to go, that little voice in my head would start talking. Maybe they've changed. Maybe they're sorry. Maybe this time is different. Yeah, that voice is an idiot. Around 5 o'clock, I finally grabbed my keys. The restaurant was about 40 minutes away. An upscale steakhouse on the nice side of town. The kind of place where appetizers cost more than an entire meal at Applebee's. Another red flag, because my family never picked expensive restaurants. Ever. Uncle Rick once drove 15 minutes to save $3 on gas. Now suddenly he wanted a fancy steakhouse? Something wasn't adding up. The closer I got, the worse my gut feeling became. By the time I pulled into the parking lot, I was already regretting the trip. Then I saw the cars. At first I thought there was another event happening. Maybe a birthday party. Maybe a wedding rehearsal. Something. But then I recognized Uncle Rick's truck. Then Aunt Denise's SUV. Then Tyler's Jeep. Then Grandma's sedan. My stomach dropped. I kept looking. And looking. And looking. More family cars. Everywhere. No way. I counted. 1, 2, 3, 10, 15, 20. There were over 20 cars in that parking lot. I sat there staring through the windshield. No music. No movement. Just trying to process what I was seeing. The text said, "Just close family." This looked more like a family reunion. I should have left right then. Seriously, I should have put the truck, which immediately struck me as odd. If this was a family dinner, why only one menu? Then she started leading me toward the back. Past the main dining room. Past the bar. Past private booths. Way toward the rear of the restaurant. And then I heard it. Laughter. A lot of laughter. The kind of loud laughter that comes from a large group already having a great time. Without you. My chest tightened. The hostess turned one final corner. And there they were. 23 people. 23, sitting around one massive table. Every seat filled except one. Mine. The second I appeared, everyone looked up. The entire table. At once. Like they'd been waiting. Like I was the main event. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Aunt Denise jumped up. "Jordan!" Suddenly, people were smiling. Waving. Acting excited. Acting like we hadn't spent 4 years pretending each other didn't exist. It felt fake. Really fake. Then I noticed the food. And my stomach sank. The table was covered. Steaks, seafood platters, ribs, shrimp. Sides everywhere. Desserts already ordered. And they weren't halfway through dinner. They were halfway through a feast. These people had clearly been there a while. Ordering, eating, drinking, having themselves a grand old time before I ever arrived. That wasn't an accident. That was planned. Then Uncle Rick stood up. Big smile on his face. Arms spread wide, like he was welcoming home a war hero. "There's our guy." Everybody laughed. I forced a smile. Inside, alarm bells were screaming, because suddenly I understood something. Nobody had waited for me. Nobody cared whether I came for dinner. They cared that I showed up before the check arrived. And deep down, I already knew exactly where this was headed. The only thing I didn't know yet was how expensive it was going to be. Then Tyler lifted his glass and grinned. "Now the party can really start." Something about the way he said it sent a chill down my spine, because it didn't sound welcoming. It sounded like a trap, and I had just walked right into it. I took my seat, the only empty chair at the entire table. Funny how nobody had forgotten to save that one. The second I sat down, a waiter appeared out of nowhere, like he'd been waiting behind a wall for his cue. "Can I get you something to drink, sir?" Before I could answer, Uncle Rick jumped in. "Bring him whatever we're having." The waiter looked at me. I smiled. "Just sparkling water." A few people exchanged looks. Tyler smirked. "Still cheap, huh?" A couple relatives laughed. I laughed too, but only because I wasn't about to explain finances to people who thought credit cards were free money. The waiter walked away. I started looking around, really looking. And the more I noticed, the worse it got. There were empty steak plates stacked everywhere. Seafood towers that looked like they'd fed a football team. Desserts already being prepared. Huge family-size platters. The works. This wasn't dinner. This was a spending competition. Then I spotted something that made my stomach tighten. The menu. One of them was sitting open near Grandma. I glanced down. Big mistake. One steak alone was $89. Another was $110. The seafood platter? Over $200. My brain immediately started doing math. Not because I wanted to, because that's what happens when you've spent years managing budgets. Every plate I saw added another number. Every empty tray added another number. Every dessert added another number. This thing was already expensive. Very expensive. Then the comments started. At first they sounded harmless. Almost casual. Aunt Denise smiled at me. Must be nice having one of those fancy corporate jobs. I nodded politely. It's all right. She laughed. Just all right? Boy, you're probably making more money in a month than some of us make all year. There it was. Money. Already! 5 minutes in. Uncle Rick jumped in. Jordan's doing real good these days. Tyler nodded. Oh yeah, dude's loaded. Loaded. I almost choked on my water. If they saw my mortgage payment, they'd pass out. But I didn't argue. I just listened. Because every comment felt connected somehow, like everybody had rehearsed the same script. Then Grandma leaned forward. You know we're proud of you. That one caught me off guard, because I hadn't heard those words in years. For about 2 seconds I actually felt something. Then she added, God sure blessed you financially. And there it was again. Money. Always money. The conversation kept circling back. No matter what we talked about. My house, my job, my truck, my savings. Everything somehow led back to dollars. It felt weird. Real weird. Like they weren't talking to me. They were calculating me, trying to estimate a number, trying to figure out how much they thought I could afford. Then Tyler raised his glass. Honestly, bro, you deserve to enjoy your success. I nodded. Thanks. He grinned. Oh, don't worry. Then he looked around the table. Looks like we already are. Everybody laughed. Everybody except me. Because suddenly that joke didn't feel like a joke. Not anymore. The waiter returned carrying another massive platter. Steaks, chicken, shrimp. Enough food for 6 people. I watched him place it on the table. Then I watched Uncle Rick nod approvingly. Like a king inspecting tribute. Nobody asked the price. Nobody cared. Why would they? As far as they were concerned. Somebody else was paying. Then I overheard a cousin whisper something. Quiet, but not quiet enough. Good thing Jordan made it. The other cousin laughed. Seriously. They both stopped talking when they noticed me looking. My stomach dropped. Because now I wasn't imagining things anymore. They knew something. Everybody knew something. Everybody except me. And I was getting real close to figuring it out. The final clue came 20 minutes later. Dessert menus arrived. Most people normally glance at prices. Maybe compare options. Maybe think about it. Not this table. Nope. These people ordered like they were spending Monopoly money. Cheesecake. Chocolate cake. Premium desserts. Extra sides. More coffee. More everything. Then Tyler looked right at me, grinning like an idiot, and said, Relax, man. I frowned. Relax about what? His grin got bigger, and then he said the words that changed everything. You're the one treating tonight. The entire table went silent. Every single person. Nobody looked surprised. Nobody corrected him. Nobody laughed. Because this wasn't a joke. This was the plan. And judging by the looks around the table, everybody already knew it, except me. I stared at Tyler. Then Uncle Rick. Then Grandma. Then Aunt Denise. Not one person looked uncomfortable. Not one. That's when I realized something terrifying. This wasn't Tyler's idea. This wasn't Uncle Rick's idea. This wasn't even one person's idea. The whole table was in on it. And somehow, I had just become the guest of honor at my own financial ambush. To be continued. Next chapter. The phone that exposed everything. The phone that exposed everything. I sat there staring at Tyler. The table had gone quiet. Not awkward quiet. Not confused quiet. Caught quiet. The kind of quiet people get when somebody says something they weren't supposed to say yet. Tyler looked around. Realized what he'd done. Then laughed. Relax, man. I'm just messing with you. Nobody else laughed. That told me everything. My stomach felt heavy. Like I'd swallowed a bowling ball. I needed a minute. Away from the fake smiles. Away from the weird comments. Away from whatever game these people were playing. So I pushed my chair back. I'm gonna hit the restroom. Nobody stopped me. Nobody cared. As soon as I got away from that table, I took a deep breath. Then another. The farther I walked, the more obvious everything became. The expensive restaurant. The giant family gathering. The constant talk about money. Tyler's little comment. None of it was random. Not a single bit. Something was coming. I just didn't know what. Yet, I stepped into the restroom. Cold water. That's all I wanted. Just cold water on my face. I walked to the sink and turned on the faucet. Then I noticed something sitting on the counter. A phone. Pink case. Covered in stickers. I recognized it immediately. Tyler's wife, Ashley. She left that thing everywhere. Restaurants. Stores. Family gatherings. Didn't matter. She was always losing it. I wasn't trying to snoop. Seriously, I wasn't. But the screen lit up, and a notification appeared. Right there. Impossible to miss. A group chat. The chat name caught my attention first. Dinner plan? My heart skipped. Dinner plan? I stared at it. Then another notification popped up. This one showed part of the message. Don't tell Jordan until... The rest got cut off. I froze. Every alarm bell in my head started screaming. Slowly, I picked up the phone. The screen wasn't locked. And before anybody judges me, understand something. 23 people had spent the last hour treating me like an ATM. At that point, I wasn't being nosy. I was gathering evidence. I opened the chat. 3 names. Uncle Rick, Ashley, Tyler. My stomach dropped. The first message I saw was from 3 weeks earlier. Tyler. Think he'll actually come? Then Ashley replied, He'll come. He always wants closure. Closure. They weren't inviting me because they missed me. They were studying me, planning for me. I kept scrolling, and it got worse. Much worse. Message after message. Weeks of planning. Weeks. This wasn't some last-minute idea. This thing had been organized for almost a month. Then I found the message that made my blood run cold. Uncle Rick, don't tell Jordan how many people are coming. My hands tightened around the phone. I kept reading. Ashley, what if he says no? Then came Rick's reply, the one that changed everything. He won't. Not in front of everybody. I stared at those words, reading them again and again and again, because suddenly the entire night made sense. The giant table, the audience, the fake reunion, the expensive food, the pressure, the compliments, everything. They weren't counting on my kindness. They were counting on my embarrassment. They thought if enough people watched, I'd cave, like I always had before. I kept scrolling. Then I found another message. This one from Tyler. And honestly, it made me laugh. Not because it was funny, because it was so unbelievably stupid. Order the expensive stuff before he gets there. My jaw dropped. I kept reading. If it's already on the table, he can't complain. I actually laughed out loud, standing alone in that restroom, because these people had spent weeks planning a scam that sounded like it was created by a group of middle schoolers. Then I found the final message, the one that explained everything, the one they'd been trying to hide all night. It was sent 4 days ago, from Uncle Rick. Need around $7,000. This solves our problem. $7,000. There it was. The real reason. Not family. Not forgiveness. Not peace. Money. Always money. My chest felt strangely calm. Not angry. Not hurt. Just calm. Because after 4 years of wondering whether I'd done the right thing, I finally had my answer. These people hadn't changed. Not one bit. I placed the phone exactly where I found it. Screen down. Like nothing happened. Then I looked in the mirror. The guy staring back at me looked different. For years I'd worried about losing my family. But standing there, I realized something. You can't lose people who only love your wallet, because they were never really yours to begin with. I smiled. For the first time all night. Not because I was happy, because I knew something they didn't. They thought they had me trapped. They thought the game was over. They thought I was about to pay a $7,218 bill. What they didn't know was, I'd just read the entire playbook. And now, it was my turn. You're paying, right? I walked back to the table like nothing happened. No rush, no anger, no drama, just calm. The kind of calm you get when the test answers are sitting right in front of you. Nobody noticed anything. Tyler was busy stuffing his face. Ashley was taking pictures of dessert. Uncle Rick was laughing too loud. The whole table looked relaxed. Why wouldn't they? As far as they knew, their plan was working perfectly. I sat down, picked up my water, took a sip, and waited. Sometimes the smartest move is letting people expose themselves. Turns out I didn't have to wait long. About 10 minutes later, the waiter brought out the final desserts. Cheesecake, chocolate lava cake, ice cream, coffee, the works. People were smiling, laughing, acting like they'd just won the lottery. Then Uncle Rick put down his fork. I knew immediately. Here it comes. He cleared his throat. The table slowly got quieter. Not completely silent, but close, like everybody knew something important was about to happen. Rick leaned back in his chair, smiled, then looked directly at me. Jordan. I smiled back. Yeah? He spread his arms dramatically. Feels good having everybody together again. A few people nodded. I stayed quiet. Then came the setup. You know, He glanced around the table. Family's been through a lot these last few years. There it was, the guilt trip. Right on schedule. Aunt Denise sighed dramatically. Grandma nodded. Tyler looked down at his plate, trying not to grin. Rick continued. But tonight feels special. More nodding, more fake smiles. Then he hit me with it. The line they'd probably rehearsed 100 times. You're paying tonight, right? Silence. Complete silence. 23 people. One giant table. Every eye landed on me. Exactly like they planned. I could almost hear their thoughts. Come on, Jordan. Don't make a scene. Just pay, like always. For years, that would have worked. For years, I would have grabbed my card just to avoid the awkwardness. Not tonight. I looked around the table. Slowly, one face at a time. Tyler, Ashley, Denise, Grandma, Rick. Nobody looked nervous. Nobody looked embarrassed. They genuinely believed they were entitled to my money. That part blew my mind. Not the bill. The confidence. The absolute confidence. I smiled. Then I said, Actually, the whole table leaned forward. Need to take care of something first. Rick relaxed immediately. He thought he'd won. Of course, I stood up, grabbed my phone, and started walking away. Behind me, I heard Tyler laughing. See? Told you, for a few relatives chuckled. They thought I was heading to the register. They thought I was about to pull out my credit card. Poor idiots. I wasn't walking toward the register. I was walking toward the restaurant manager, and in less than 2 minutes, their entire plan was about to explode. Near the service station stood a manager wearing a black suit and earpiece. Professional-looking guy, maybe mid-40s. The kind of manager who's seen everything. I walked up. Excuse me, he smiled. How can I help you, sir? I lowered my voice. A quick question, Sure, dat. I pointed toward the giant family table. The gentleman at the head of that table. The manager looked over. Uncle Rick was waving his hands around while telling a story. Yeah? Did he make the reservation? The manager nodded. Yes, sir. Perfect. Exactly what I expected. I smiled. Then delivered the sentence that changed the whole night. Great. He's paying. The manager blinked. What? I kept my voice calm. The reservation is under his name. He ordered the food. He invited the guests. The manager looked confused. I continued. And just so we're clear, I am not hosting that event. Now he understood. Restaurant people catch on fast. Really fast. His expression changed immediately. Professional. Careful. Understanding. Understood, sir. I nodded. Please bring the check directly to him, TD. The manager glanced toward the table again, then back at me. Oh, absolutely. That's all I needed. No yelling. No argument. No scene, just facts. I thanked him and walked back toward the table. The whole family looked relaxed, smug even. Tyler was practically grinning. Uncle Rick looked like a man already spending somebody else's money. I sat down, picked up my water, and smiled. Because the next 5 minutes were going to be unforgettable. For all the wrong reasons. The declined card. Man, you could feel the mood change the second. That black check folder landed in front of Uncle Rick. 1 second everybody was laughing. The next, dead silence. Rick stared at the folder. Then looked at me. Then back at the folder. Like maybe it had accidentally landed in the wrong spot. Finally he chuckled. Looks like they gave me your check. I leaned back in my chair. Nah. His smile faded. What? Nah, that's yours. The whole table got real quiet. Tyler stopped chewing. Ashley lowered her phone. Even Grandma looked confused. Rick laughed again. Only this time it sounded forced. Come on, man. I shrugged. You made the reservation. Rick's face tightened. You serious? Dead serious. For a couple seconds, nobody spoke. Everybody was waiting for me to crack, waiting for the punchline, waiting for me to say I was joking. But it never came, because I wasn't joking. Not even a little. Rick opened the folder. The second he saw the total, his eyes nearly popped out of his head. 7218? A few relatives gasped. Tyler leaned over. No way. Oh, there's a way, I said. Y'all found it. Nobody laughed. Rick flipped through the receipt. Page after page. The man looked like he was reading a horror novel. Then he pointed at me. Jordan. I smiled. Yeah? Quit playing. I'm not. His jaw tightened. You really ain't paying? Nope. The whole table froze. Because now they knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. The ATM was officially close. Rick pulled out a credit card, trying to save face, trying to act like everything was under control. He waved down the manager. "Run it." The manager nodded, took the card, walked away. Rick leaned back, forced a smile. No big deal. Nobody looked convinced. A minute later, the manager returned. Still polite, still professional, but there was one problem. He handed the card back. "Sorry, sir." Rick frowned. "What?" "The transaction didn't go through." "Man." The whole table went dead silent. Rick blinked. "What do you mean it didn't go through?" The manager stayed calm. "The card was declined." Tyler's eyes got huge. Ashley stopped breathing. Grandma looked like she just saw a ghost. Rick grabbed the card. "No way." Then he looked at me, like somehow this was my fault. I just took another sip of water. Rick pulled out another card. This time his hand shook a little. "Not much, just enough. Try this one." Manager nodded. Walked away. Nobody said a word. You could literally hear dishes clinking from tables across the restaurant. That's how quiet it got. Then the manager returned. Same look, same card, same result. "Sorry, sir." Declined. Again. Now people were shifting in their seats, looking uncomfortable, looking nervous, looking anywhere except at Uncle Rick, because reality was finally setting in, and reality wasn't pretty. Tyler leaned toward his dad. "Dad," Rick shot him a look. Tyler shut up immediately. Then Rick reached into his wallet one more time. Third card. Last shot. He handed it over. The manager disappeared. Everybody waited. 30 seconds felt like 30 minutes. Then the manager came back, and before he even spoke, we all knew. "Sorry, sir." Declined. Again. Game over. Rick looked completely different now. The confident guy from earlier? Gone. The loud guy making speeches? Gone. The guy acting like he owned the room? Gone. Now he just looked scared. Really scared. And honestly, that's when it finally hit me. This whole thing was never about family. It was about money. Always had been. Rick slowly looked at me. "Come on, Jordan." I raised an eyebrow. "What? You really gonna leave me hanging?" I laughed. "You leave me hanging for 4 years and now you're worried about one dinner?" Nobody at the table knew where to look, because they all knew I had a point. Tyler finally jumped in. "Bro, it's just money." I looked right at him. "Cool." He nodded. "Yeah." I pointed at the bill. "Then you pay it." Man, that shut him up real quick. Not another word. Not one. Because everybody loves spending money until it's their money. Then Uncle Rick said something that almost made me laugh. "You embarrassed me." I stared at him for a second, then shook my head. "Nah." The table got quiet again. "You embarrassed yourself." Nobody argued. Nobody defended him. Nobody said I was wrong, because deep down, every single person at that table knew exactly what happened. The plan failed, and for the first time in years, they couldn't blame me for it. Man, the whole table was falling apart. Nobody was smiling anymore. Nobody was laughing. Few minutes ago, these folks were acting like they were at the best family reunion ever. Now, it felt like somebody pulled the plug on the party. Tyler kept staring at the check. Ashley wouldn't look at anybody. And Uncle Rick looked like he was trying to figure out how his perfect plan crashed and burned so fast. Then Grandma finally spoke. "What exactly is going on?" Nobody answered. So I did. I leaned back in my chair, took a sip of water, and said, "You really want to know?" Grandma nodded. The rest of the table got quiet. Real quiet. I looked directly at Tyler. Then Ashley. Then Uncle Rick. "Funny thing is," I smiled, "the answer's sitting in Ashley's phone." The second those words left my mouth, Tyler's face turned white. Ashley looked like she might pass out. And Uncle Rick knew. He knew exactly what I was talking about. "What phone?" Grandma asked. Nobody answered. I laughed. "Come on now." Still nothing. Then I pulled out my own phone. I got a pretty good memory. The room froze, because now they knew. I knew everything. I started repeating messages, word for word. The same messages I saw in that group chat. "Don't tell Jordan how many people are coming." Silence. "Order the expensive stuff before he gets here." More silence. "Once he's here, he won't say no in front of everybody." Aunt Denise slowly turned toward Uncle Rick. "Rick." Rick didn't answer. Because what was he supposed to say? That it wasn't true? Everybody could see it was. The first person to get mad wasn't me. It was Cousin Megan. She slammed her fork down. Hold up. Everybody looked at her. You mean to tell me this whole thing was a setup? Nobody answered, which was answer enough. Megan shook her head. That's messed up. Then another cousin spoke up. Wait, y'all told us Jordan offered to pay. Now all eyes went to Uncle Rick, because apparently even some of the family didn't know the full story. Rick looked trapped, like a guy caught lying on live TV. Tyler tried jumping in. Y'all are blowing this out of proportion. Megan laughed. No, bro. Y'all tried to scam your own cousin. Boom! Direct hit. That's when the finger-pointing started. Tyler blamed Ashley. Ashley blamed Rick. Rick blamed Tyler. Everybody started talking over each other. People were standing up, arguing, yelling. One cousin demanded separate checks. Another cousin said they never would have ordered half that food if they'd known the truth. The whole thing turned into chaos. And honestly, I just sat there watching. For 4 years, I'd been the villain in their story. For 4 years, I'd been the selfish guy, the bad guy, the problem. Now they were finally seeing who the real problem was. And it wasn't me. Then something happened I never expected. Grandma looked at Uncle Rick and said, You lied. The whole table got quiet. Rick stared at her. Mom. No. She shook her head. You lied. For the first time all night. Rick had no comeback. None. Because when your own mother calls you out, game over. One by one, people started leaving. Megan left first. Then her husband. Then another cousin. Then another. Within 10 minutes, half the table was empty. People didn't want to be part of the mess anymore. And honestly, I didn't blame them. The whole thing was embarrassing. I looked at the giant table, the half-eaten food, the empty chairs, the giant bill. Then I stood up, grabbed my keys, and reached into my wallet. I pulled out a $100 bill, dropped it on the table for the waiter. The poor guy deserved hazard pay after surviving this circus. Then Uncle Rick looked up. So that's it? I nodded. Yep. You just walking away? I smiled. Nah. He frowned. What do you mean? I looked around the room one last time, then said, I walked away 4 years ago. Tonight, I just stopped looking back. Man, nobody had an answer for that. Not one. I turned around, walked toward the exit. Nobody followed me. Nobody stopped me. Nobody called my name. And for the first time in years, that didn't bother me. Not even a little. Because some people only love you when you're useful. And once you figure that out, you stop trying to earn their approval. I stepped outside. The night air hit my face. I took a deep breath, smiled, started my truck, and drove home. Lighter, happier, and exactly 7-2-18 richer than they planned. All right, y'all, that's the story. If you made it all the way to the end, I seriously appreciate you hanging out with me. Now I gotta ask, what would have you done in Jordan's shoes? Would you have paid the bill just to keep the peace? Or would have you walked out too? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I read way more of them than you probably think. And while you're down there, let me know. Where are y'all watching from? Are you tuning in from Texas? Florida? California? New York? Or maybe somewhere else around the world? I'd love to see how far this story traveled. And if this story had you hooked, shocked, laughing, or saying ain't no way at your screen, hit that like button and smash that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and lets me bring you more wild stories just like this one. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of the people who truly care about you. And remember, just because somebody shares your last name doesn't mean they deserve a seat at your table.